It's great to be here. My challenge today is to talk to you about the NeoLife difference, which, you know, if you're really going to do it justice, it's going to take days to go through that. But I'm going to highlight those things for you and just sort of bring some things to everyone's attention, okay? Especially the new folks in the room that maybe don't know everything that's gone on in this company, the things that we have been involved in that have been not just the foundation of the company, but the foundation of the industry as well. But before I do that, I'd like to take 1 minute and introduce the new lady in my life, Jennifer. Jennifer, stand up back there, will you please? Jennifer and I got married 2 weeks ago yesterday, and I can tell you that I'm a lucky man. You'll get to meet her. She's a wonderful person. But let's get on, and let me get on and talk about what I'm up to here. Let's talk about the NeoLife difference. How much time do I have? Talk about the NeoLife difference just a little bit. You know, NeoLife, when you start thinking about the difference, it's everywhere. It's not in any one thing we do or any 5 things we do, or it's everything we do, everywhere, all the time. It's been that way since the beginning. So I'm going to just walk through and we'll ask a few questions about what do you think, you know? How important are these things to you? So let's just take a look through. We'll start here. How about NeoLife's history? That's a big NeoLife difference. You know, we are about to enter our 65th year in business. I think August 14th of 1958 was the starting point for the company, and we're sneaking up on starting our 65th year in business. That's amazing. You know, the majority of businesses in this country don't last 10 years, don't last 20 years. But to last this long, less than 1% of companies last this long. And it's usually an indication that you've got a great product and a great team behind that product and a great benefit or service you provide to people. And that's what we've been doing. We are an industry pioneer. Back then, there wasn't an industry. It was a whole new concept. But we were right there being a pioneer. We brought to the marketplace the understanding of things like the importance of cellular nutrition in 1958. Today we take that as being of course. Of course that's the way it has to be. But back then, that was a message that, you know, wasn't getting the amplitude, wasn't getting the exposure that it needed to. Yet there we were giving it, that focus on cellular nutrition. Talk about another part of our history. Do you know that NeoLife was a great champion of health freedom? Did you realize that back in the late 60s, early 70s, the Food and Drug Administration and some of the bigger boys in the pharmaceutical industry didn't want you to have access to dietary supplements? They wanted to make them pharmaceuticals. They wanted to control that. They didn't want you to have the freedom of choice. Well, unless you were going to go to their store and choose their brand. Right? They didn't want you to have the freedom to apply these things to yourself. So we were there in the late 1960s, fighting those battles with the Food and Drug Administration. And later on in the 1980s, we were back walking the halls of Congress, working on the Nutrition Labeling and Education Act, again, to create that regulatory framework that allowed us to do what we're doing. And after that, we were back in the halls of Congress talking to senators and representatives about the importance of health freedom that resulted in the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act. These are things that are the foundation of this industry, and NeoLife was there on the front lines. I walked the halls of Congress giving that message, fighting for health freedom. That's an important thing, an important NeoLife difference. All the companies that are here today that weren't there with us then are living off the work that NeoLife did. We should all be proud of that. Now let's talk about the NeoLife difference. Maybe it's the science behind NeoLife that's different, not just the history, but the science. And certainly I think that's true, that we've always been a science-focused company. From day one, we entered the marketplace with a product that was the result of clinical research that had been done. And as the company progressed, the message became so repetitive, the message became so strong that in a point there in 1975, it attracted this fellow, Dr. Arthur First, to the company. One of the great scientists of the last century, one of the preeminent cancer researchers in the world, was attracted to NeoLife. We didn't go seeking him, he came seeking us. And the reason is that Dr. First, who had spent his academic career trying to figure out what goes on with cancer and how to cure it, decided that he wanted to take that step and move from the idea of correction to prevention. And he saw that. He saw the strength of nutrition in the stories and the products that NeoLife was delivering and decided to join the company back then. Big, big, big step. First time ever somebody of that caliber had started talking about the importance of nutrition to health protection. Later on, black screen. Oh, there it is. Okay. Later on, Dr. First decided that, we really need to get more work done, that there's more science to be done, that there's great opportunity out there, so he convinced the company to form the Scientific Advisory Board. Okay, this is back in the 1970s. First company in our industry to have a Scientific Advisory Board. Today, you sort of got to have one so you look like you're competing, right? Back then, that was a revolutionary concept for a company in the dietary supplement industry to turn its product future over to a bunch of scientists. Yet that is a huge NeoLife difference, because since that happened, our pathway forward has been marked by incredible achievement. Incredible things like this. This is a representative of just some of the peer-reviewed scientific journals in which our research has been published. That in itself is unique. In our industry, it's not like many of our competitors actually go and do their own research. Some do. It's not like many of them get it sort of recognized by the scientific community. Some do. But it's not like they get their research published in peer-reviewed journals over and over and over again. The peer review process is really, really important, a big NeoLife difference, because the difference is it means that what we say about our products that's in these journals is fact. Not theory, not speculation, not maybe, but fact. Facts that have been reviewed by scientists whose sole goal was to keep them from getting published. Right? That's what peer review means. It's a filter that keeps the junk from getting into the scientific database. Yet we do this over and over and over. So maybe that's our difference. I know that most companies would be happy to have one product with one peer-reviewed article in a journal like this. They'd be happy. That would be what they're talking about. But we've done this over and over and over. A lot of that has to do with the Scientific Advisory Board and Dr. First's sort of approach to running a scientific organization. A lot of it has to do with the company never saying no to the Scientific Advisory Board. These studies that we get, they're not inexpensive. Human clinical trials, we don't use animals. We think humans make fine animals. Right? Because you can say ouch, or no, or please more, right? But what's important to this is not only what it represents from us, these journals that you see here, but others have worked with us, together with us, to get work published about our products in these journals. Some of them, like researchers from the USDA, chose our products to do research on their own behalf and then published it in peer-reviewed journals. That's a story that no one else in our industry can tell. That's a big NeoLife difference. The science behind this company is amazing. But maybe that's not it. Maybe it's our history of innovation that is a big NeoLife difference too. We've been around a long time. We've created a lot of things. We have a lot of technology that's exclusive to us. You can't find the things that we do, or the ingredients that we use, or the technology that we deliver anywhere else. We actually do the work and create these things ourselves. These are NeoLife things. This is a NeoLife story. You see a few of them here. Protein instantizing and ProtoGuard. Back in the day, back in the late 50s, early 60s, protein powders didn't taste real good. They were hard to make. The amino acids in the proteins were very susceptible to damage. We figured that out very quickly and developed technologies that allowed us to work with proteins and protect their integrity and deliver them in a way that they actually mixed into water or milk or something like that, whatever your fluid of choice was, and tasted good and were good for your body. We were the ones pioneering that technology that allowed that. Or maybe it's our artificial stomach, our ability to look at what happens to products when we put them in our body. We didn't want to just assume that because we gave you something that it was going to work. We wanted to prove it, so we developed an artificial stomach, a device that acted like your stomach. And then we could look at what was happening to our tablets and our capsules and our powders and so on as it went through the stomach. Very, very big deal. That's a common practice today, but we were the first to do that back in the 1970s. Another big NeoLife difference. Or maybe it's our ability to extract tiny, tiny, tiny amounts of bioactive substances from whole foods. How do you get the lycopene out of a carrot? Or out of a tomato, rather, excuse me. Or the beta-carotene out of a carrot. Or lutein out of spinach. How do you do that? What? And keep it intact. These are very sensitive things. And then how do you get that from the spinach into a mechanism that puts it in a capsule that somebody can take, and it gets in their bloodstream and goes around and collects, in the case of lutein, in the macula of the eye and protects their eyesight? How do you do that? We were the pioneers of that. When we started doing that work, we were so far ahead that the scientific community didn't even have ways to identify some of the things that we were doing. Okay? We had to stop and sit down and work with researchers and analytical chemists and so on to say, of all of these peaks that we see in the carotenoid profile, which is which? And how do you know? And how do you standardize for it? Things like that didn't exist. Or maybe it was our ability to develop an understanding of glucose in the body when we developed glycemic response control. You know, very important technology, understanding what goes on in your body again after you consume something. Now, glycemic response, glycemic, has become a good big word lately. If you look at the local advertising these years that you see on TV, or these days that you see on TV, you see people talk about glycemic this, glycemic that. We pioneered this understanding in the late 1990s and brought it to market the first time in 2000. Again, a big, big NeoLife difference. That sort of technology, that sort of scientific understanding is huge. Or maybe it's our molecular differentiation technology that allowed us to identify all 8 members of the omega-3 fatty acid family and deliver them in a capsule to you every time in exactly the same standardized amounts, to make sure those benefits are there every time. And to do that work and to do clinical trials on it and get that work published in peer-reviewed journals, proving that what we were saying was a scientific fact. That these things are present, that there are 8, that they are present throughout the food supply, that they need to be in your body, that they work together synergistically or individually, but you need all of them, and they need to be in the product. And I can tell you right now, we are still the only company out there delivering this sort of technology. So those are very big NeoLife differences, and I could, like I say, I could take you through a dozen or maybe 100 of differentiations like that, things that make us stand out from the marketplace, just the way we do things. But maybe it's this, though. Maybe it's our reputation that is the NeoLife difference. You know, we have a fabulous reputation. We have a reputation in the business community. We were one of the founding members of the Council for Responsible Nutrition, which at the time was a small organization, which now is one of the bigger organizations, political organizations in Washington, D.C., that fights against the FDA and the FCC or FCTC all the time, continuing to fight that battle because they, even though they have lost to us a few times in a row now, they still haven't given up on the idea that they should have some control over your health destiny. They want to be able to control something you can put in your body or should put in your body. They want to be able to stop you from doing some of the things you do. They want to be able to impede us from delivering the messages that we deliver. And I can tell you that the messages we deliver for the last 50 years are a lot more in tune with reality than the messages they've been delivering for the last 50 years. But maybe it's our reputation in the business community. Anybody ever hear of the Better Business Bureau? If you go there, you'll find that we have an A+ rating, and that we've had one every year for decades. For decades. Matter of fact, they started tracking us in 1969. Think about that. A+. You know, in our industry, to be that bulletproof, to be that strong, to have that sort of a business capability is not normal. It's a NeoLife difference, though. And it's because of who we are and what we do. We don't over-represent. We don't tell you that we're going to make you get up and walk after you've been crushed by some device someplace in the world. We give you what we know we can deliver, and that's an ability to empower your body, to give your body the tools it needs, and in that body, we find miracles. So maybe it's our reputation with the academic community. You can see a reference to the University of Minnesota here. We have a very good relationship with many universities and institutions across America, and in fact around the world. I highlight this one because the University of Minnesota is the house, if you will, or the home of PHENREG, the Plant Polyphenol Human Research Interest Group. Very important scientific body. Today it's, if you look around in the industry, polyphenols and flavonoids and things like that are really, really hot topics. The relationship between them and cognitive function and cardiovascular function and their interactions with your gut microbiome. Holy smoke, this is hot stuff, okay? It's all over in the journals. We actually got together with this group and became the founding member of the Plant Polyphenol Human Research Interest Group back in the 1990s. We were the founding member. We got together, Dr. Kruge and I sat down at a breakfast with a bunch of people who were excited about polyphenols and flavonoids, and the compelling feeling there was so strong that this was, back in the 1990s, an emerging evidence, an emerging area of health importance to humans, that I got together with Dr. Kruge. We went back to the company and said, we want to sponsor this group. We want to be the founding sponsor. This is going to be hot. And sure enough, it was. And ever since then, we have been sponsoring them every year. Okay. Some of the sponsors, you can see some of them in there, USDA, blueberries, stuff like that. But NeoLife has always been front and center in this very important group. And that's just one example of our relationships with the academic community. Perhaps it's our reputation with science, though. You know, we do a lot in science. We support a lot of scientific events. We give back to the scientific community every time we can get a good chance because we draw so much from them. Here's one example. Through the University of San Francisco, we give back to scientists. We recognize new young scientists, emerging students that are coming up through the system, showing excellence in things that we care about. We just gave away the 28th NeoLife Arthur First Scholarship at the University of San Francisco. 28 times we have recognized the efforts of really compelling young researchers and scientists coming up through the scientific community, and 28 times we have awarded them with something that will boost them into the scientific community. That's a big NeoLife difference. But perhaps it's this that is the NeoLife difference. Perhaps it's our farm-to-table logistics. Farm can be sea-to-table logistics. It doesn't really matter. The idea is it's our ability to track something from its source all the way through the system, all the way to your kitchen table, okay? Think about that for a moment. Every single nutrient, every single thing that goes into every single product that we make, from its source, we can track it all the way through our system, never lose track of it, and get it all the way to your kitchen table. And if you had a window, if you had the ability, you could pick up that bottle, you could look at the side, and on the side it's got a batch number, and if you could, we don't let you do this, but if you could plug that into our system and you could trace it back and you could find out the origin and history of every single ingredient that's in that product. All the way back, in the case of carrots, like you see here, all the way back to the fields that they were grown in, and more importantly, the genetic identity of those carrots. Because you see, this is the way we keep GMOs out of our product line. We do it by taking control of that and working it through so we know from its origin to where it's delivered exactly where those ingredients come from. That's a big NeoLife difference. The reason we did this is we started doing this years and years and years ago, way back in the 80s, because we knew it was going to be a problem. We knew it was going to be a challenge. But that is a huge, huge NeoLife difference, our farm-to-table logistics. But maybe this is the NeoLife difference too, our amazing reputation for quality, world-class quality. You know, the products we sell are sold pretty much all over the world, 50-some countries, right? And in dealing with that reality, we have to talk to a lot of regulatory agencies and organizations that aren't necessarily on our side, okay? It's not that they're against us so much, but they're saying, you know, we're gonna protect our people from your stuff. But the reality we find out, and they learn from us as we go along, is that it's never a problem for us. Our own criteria for quality, our own criteria for the way we make our products is already more vigorous and aggressive than theirs, okay? Already more vigorous and aggressive than theirs. That's why we can say that NeoLife products meet or exceed the quality standards for purity, potency, and consistency of every major regulatory authority in the world. The Food and Drug Administration, the European Food Safety Administration, the Australians, the Canadians, the Japanese, the Africans, everybody. We meet or exceed every criteria that they have because our own criteria are already more strict than theirs. Big, big NeoLife difference. Now for me, I think this is actually probably our biggest NeoLife difference. All this stuff, okay? You all know this stuff, right? You eat it all the time, I hope. It's important, it's basic to our biochemistry. For NeoLife, this has been a big difference that stands out, and I think this stands out above any of the other industries or any of the other competitors that you see out there, and this is why. It's nature's plan for human nutrition, following nature's blueprint, understanding what nature intended and delivering that. Think about that. How can you not think about human nature, what nature intended for humans, and not use that as the mechanism by which your products are developed? How can you not use that? There we go. How can you not use that and think about whole food sourcing? Because we are designed, we are formulated, we are created to work around whole food. One of the things I like to say about whole food sourcing, we spent decades working in this area. While most of the rest of the industry was looking for the nutrient of the year, we were looking for the nutrients of a lifetime. Because we knew that if something is a nutrient, it's not just something you need this year. It's something you need every day of your life for your lifetime. That's why we spent so much time and continue to spend time in this arena doing this. That's why we have this product line, the most amazing product line in the world. Each one of these products, and in fact more of these products, I couldn't get them all on the slide, have these resources, these ingredient sources in their formulations. They deliver those benefits that if you don't have this stuff in your product, you're not giving the body all it needs. You're not giving it the diversity that it needs, or the complexity, the opportunity to take advantage of all of those nutrients and have those body-based miracles happen. Okay, it's a huge, huge, huge NeoLife difference. This just doesn't happen in the rest of the industry. But here's something I want you to consider. It's what I call the lifetime health advantage. Now, you can see there's a lot of words on here, and it's not important that you read all the words. I'd like you to focus just on the dates, okay? You see that top one there says March 2021, circulating carotenoids and breast cancer among high-risk individuals, American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. It says that if you have a lot of carotenoids in your blood, your risk of breast cancer is greatly diminished. The one right below, bottom left, talks about the same sort of thing, that dietary prevention of breast cancer in high-risk women from 2021. That carotenoids play a key role, even if you're high risk, meaning that you've got the genetic sequences that put you there, even when you're at high risk. Now, think about that for a moment. We introduced carotenoid complex in 1990, 30-something years ago, right? People who embraced the carotenoid complex at that time had a 30-year advantage over people that are just learning about these benefits today. Because we've been talking about this all that time. So for everybody that got on, I actually started a little before that, but everybody that got onto the products back then is getting these advantages today because the exact carotenoids that they're talking about in these studies are the exact ones that are in our product and the exact ones that our bioavailability studies and clinical research, they get into your bloodstream and do these things. Look at those other two, emerging science on whole grain intake and inflammation. 2020, and the one below that, plant-based sterols and stanols in health and disease, consequences for humans. These are both like right now. Yet we introduced this idea of the importance of whole grain, lipids and sterols in 1958, focusing on their important relationships with cells and how cell membranes are formed. People who have been taking treonine or Formula 4 since that period of time have a tremendous lifetime health advantage because they were getting those things well before they knew that they were needed. The reason that we can make these sorts of claims is because we stay within nature's blueprint, nature's plan for human nutrition. Here's some more, a couple more just real quick, right? Omega-3 fatty acids, carotenoids, and vitamin E supplementation improved working memory in older adults. Cognitive decline, cognitive function, preservation of that, and cognitive decline is a hot topic right now because as we are living longer, as our hearts are living longer, and our lungs and our joints, we're finding more people are compromised, challenged by the fact that maybe this isn't living as long as the rest of my body, okay? That can be from a couple of things. It can be from the stress in the environment or the lack of nutrients in your diet or even a genetic predisposition. But the reality is that when you give your body the things it needs, your body can perform the miracle of sustaining cognition. You can see another one here about red blood cells and the risk of Alzheimer's and so on and so forth. These things aren't important. I think what's important for you to know is that these are the things that are in our products, and the reason we are so committed to these whole food sources for our products is because these types of benefits keep showing up year after year after year, decade after decade after decade, delivering that lifetime health advantage that comes from being in NeoLife. It comes from being part of this group. If you weren't here to hear about the products and take those products, you could not be enjoying the benefits that those products are giving you today. So what is the NeoLife difference? Is it our history, our science, innovation, scientific proof, reputation, quality, whole food sourcing? Is it all of those? And the answer is yes, it's all of those. It's all of those things put together everywhere you look. This company is different. We've been around a long time. We've been doing things that are the foundation of the industry, that the rest of the industry takes for granted. That of course you can sell these products. Of course there's no FDA getting in the way. Of course there's a regulatory structure that allows you to bring products to market and tell people. But we have been there. We have done the work. And I can tell you the work is not close to over. The work is not close to over. We are still doing this exact same stuff the exact same way. And you're going to hear about that and how we applied that in a new product in just a few minutes. Okay? But I want you to know that all of this is alive and well. I always like to tell people, you know, it's easy when it's all true. It's easy when it's all true. So the one thing I want to leave you with, new people in the audience, the older ones too, but the new people in the audience, there's 3 things that you should know I want to leave you with. First, know the difference. Know that NeoLife is different. Understand that we're different. This is not the same as you'll find in the marketplace. We are different. Number 2, feel the difference. Take the products, experience them for yourself. Share that with other people. And finally, live the difference. Because when you live that difference, you reflect that difference to the people around you, and you become much more attractive to them because they want to be much more like you are. Thank you very much.